what are the 4 stages to quit smoking? So there are widely considered to be 4 stages smokers go through in the process of quitting. Okay. And these are contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. So I want to look at these through the lens of working with the unconscious mind, leveraging a strong personal motivation, which is pretty much the best way to quit smoking, most effective way that I'm aware of. Okay. So I'll just outline these briefly, and then we'll dive into these in a bit of detail. And I want to give you a bit of a spin on these. I think will be different from what you've heard before. Okay, so the first stage to quitting smoking is contemplation, and really that means thinking about it, reflecting on your habit. And absolutely, this is important. In fact, I talk about the 2 decisions for quitting smoking. The point where you say, "Oh my God, enough is enough. I've got to quit." And then the moment later on where you do actually quit, where you do a kind of body scan and you check inside and you go, "I can't believe it. I've just got no cravings anymore. I just don't fancy a cigarette." So contemplation is really, really key to getting to that point, but it does need to be done in a very particular way. Secondly, preparation. Well, that just means getting ready to quit. That means, I guess, putting in the as much as the actual kind of physical preparations, the mental preparations for what you're going to need to be doing differently. Okay, for a lot of people, that will be removing the smoking paraphernalia from the house, for example. Removing ashtrays, putting them in the bin, getting rid of lighters, all that kind of stuff. Third kind of part clearly is action, and that's where you just quit. And then the fourth is maintenance, remaining a non-smoker. Now, what I'd like to suggest is that as we go through these, the contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance, that there's a way in which this can happen very, very, very kind of seamlessly, to the point where really maintenance isn't even an issue. Okay, so let's look at this. Preparation, or rather contemplation, the contemplation leading to the preparation, action, and the maintenance. So contemplation is really, really vital. And the way that I describe this in my teaching in my videos with my clients and working with people all around the world is that you really want to be in this kind of area, this kind of zone where you look back over your life and you look back at smoking where you are now in it, and you look at your reasons for smoking, why you started smoking, and you kind of almost ask yourself, knowing what I know now, would I choose to start smoking? Would I have chosen to start smoking back then, knowing what I know now? And for most people, that's a no. And that can snowball into a whole series of reflections about their life. But the key to contemplation is this. You're only going to make a change when there are 2 things that happen. One, you get to a point of enough is enough. All right. I had a client who would wake up in the night to go and smoke. They couldn't even smoke through the night. And one day they were lying in bed, just having had a cigarette, and looking over at the cigarettes on their desk. And they realized their life was being controlled by some inanimate substance, by really some dead leaves in some paper. They're being controlled by it. And they said to themselves, enough is enough. And that was the moment, big epiphany for them. Okay. So the first part of contemplation is enough is enough. It's a pivotal moment. And then the second part of that is a strong, personal, deep, heartfelt, motivating reason for wanting to quit smoking. All right. And that will be linked to enough is enough. It may be what, in fact, gets you to that very point. A lot of clients tell me, I've had a lot of clients come in who used to be physically fit, fell into the habit of smoking, They then had children later on, and they wanted to go and interact with those children. They wanted to play with their children or their grandchildren. They would take them out to the park or some other activity, and they were out of breath, physically out of breath, drained, unable to keep up with them. At that point, they said to themselves, enough is enough. And so when you're thinking about contemplation, it's really important to bear in mind that ultimately the most important part of this is your sense of expectation about how your life is going to be different and why you would want that to be different. And that's going to come from reflecting on cigarettes and reflecting on smoking in a way that makes you get to that point of enough is enough. I've made this decision for myself. It's not because other people are telling me. It's not because I feel, people are trying to shame me into it or encourage me or tell me. No, I'm doing it on my own terms. And when it's intrinsic, your motivation to change like that, well, it will be, your life will work really, really well. It will go an awful, awful lot better. Okay. So that's the essence of contemplation. Okay. So that contemplation, I would, the way that I refer to it really is more, it's more a reflection on your life through the strategic lens of, would I have chosen to smoke back then, knowing what I know now? Am I glad I started smoking? Would I recommend smoking to other people? Would I recommend other people take it up as the best way to reward yourself, the best way to deal with anxiety? And this concept of having a strong, heartfelt, personal motivation to quit that gets you to the point of enough is enough. All right. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay. There's your point of, that's it. There's no going back now. All right. That's the contemplation we want to get to. So that's the first stage of quitting smoking. Now, the second stage, preparation, is really where you start getting informed. That's where you might, for example, come and watch videos like this. All right. It's where you are starting to pay attention to information out there with quitting. Now, there's a problem with preparation for getting ready to quit, in that what most people do is they will quite understandably seek out other people who have quit, or rather who are trying to quit, because they'll join forums on social media and speak to other people, who they know in their life. And unfortunately, what happens is most people make the have a misunderstanding that smoking is primarily physical rather than looking at the psychological triggers. And of course, if it was a physical thing, then nicotine replacement therapy would be very, very successful, but it's not. Okay, so the challenge is that during the preparation phase, when people go out to get information, they tend to join groups that are a mixture of a few people who have managed to quit smoking, a ton of people who are struggling, many of whom keep falling off the wagon, who are giving them advice. Like, you wouldn't want to go and see a financial advisor who was living on Skid Row, right? Didn't even, had a shirt with holes in it and couldn't, was sleeping out of a cardboard box. Why? Because that person's is not going to give you the best advice because they haven't been able to apply it in their own life. So the challenge is that there are people going out there, the people who will be sort of sharing advice will be people who've been typically struggling, who are struggling, and they'll be mentioning the techniques and tools that they use, which of course have not really worked for them. Things like nicotine replacement therapy, different drugs like Zyban or Champix or any of these kind of things. All right, and it's not that there's it's very well-intentioned advice. Okay, but if you're getting poor information, okay, you're going to get poor outputs. They used to say good information in, or great information in, great information out. Here you go. All right, if you get poor information in, you get poor information out, and that's PEPO. You don't want PEPO. All right, you do not want to get that poor information. So the preparation needs to be where you're getting good quality information, where you can understand the overall ramifications to your life that stopping smoking, the change of stopping smoking is going to entail. So that's going to mean looking back at your original decision for, why did you start smoking, and would you still choose to do that now? Your personal reason to change, and then considering the other factors in your life. How are you going to relax at work? How are you going to reward yourself? As you start to think about the changes you're making, what comes up inside? And typically there'll be a lot of anxiety and fear and concern. All right. And that's where you can get great information, for instance, in the videos that I do, and other quality information that'll help you get ready to quit. That'll help you understand, okay, it's totally an inner game. It's kind of about, it's almost like looking at a very multifaceted kind of diamond. And it's just turning around and looking at it slightly differently and finding the right way to look at it for you, where you go, okay, I get it. I understand that there's this like shift in mental perspective. All right. It's not, it's not a mountain so much as a molehill that I thought was a mountain. All right. But you need to get the right information. You need to get good quality information. And I think when we think about preparation, that means understanding that the changes you're going to be making are at the unconscious level. It's you can have this motivation consciously, but you're going to be dealing fundamentally with all these unconscious desires and all the needs that, or the perceived needs that your unconscious mind has been getting through smoking, such as dealing with anxiety, boredom, rewarding yourself, dealing with a tough day, managing stress. It's an excuse to speak with someone, managing what to do with your hands, to enjoy the ritual of a coffee, all these things. Okay. So when you're getting ready to quit, get good information. And, if you want to seek out a stop smoking expert, arrange a consultation with them, arrange a strategy call where you can find out more about how that person could support you. Because we know that if you left your own devices, most people will fail. Only 3 to 6% of people, about 14 months later, if they try to do it just by themselves with no plan, are successful. And if you're looking at a 97% failure rate, that's not really where you want to be headed. So make sure that you get some good quality information, understand the different options that are available to you. It's fine to look at the drugs and so forth and nicotine replacement therapy, but just be mindful of the results that are there and find out what people who have been successful and are happy non-smokers have done. All right. And also speak with someone, go and tap into the wisdom, the experience of people who are stop smoking experts who can help you. So that's the kind of preparation that will help you start to begin to make the shifts inside, the mental shifts inside, the psychological shifts inside, that'll start to create this sense of positive expectation that you can change. And then we get to the third part, because we've had 1, contemplation, 2, preparation. Now we're on the third stage of quitting smoking, which is quitting. And honestly, when I work with people, the contemplation has usually happened before we get on a call, before we get on a consultation. That contemplation deepens on the call and bleeds into their preparation. So the contemplation gets solidified through motivation, through our discussion. Well, we might spend an hour together, 45 minutes together, and they start making these mental preparations, which are a mixture of what will happen in their life if they don't change and how it's going to be better when they do change, and any other fears and concerns that they have, so that they're fully primed and they really understand that they are motivated, that they want this, and that the change is just a kind of inner block, if you will. So when we get to this third stage of quitting, we're going straight for the inner block, unconsciously. The inner block may be quite vaguely specified. In fact, it usually is. Because after all, your unconscious mind is this huge storehouse of all your life experience. How can we just put it in a box? How can we just go in and grab this one thing and tell it what to do? Well, we can't, because we don't have that. It's processing. It does parallel processing, and it learns. And the languages of the unconscious mind are emotion and symbolism. And so when we want to communicate with the unconscious mind, we have to communicate symbolically and using emotion, okay? Which is why when we're working effectively to help people stop very, very quickly, to stop smoking, it's got to be at the unconscious level, all right? But you've got to have the conscious buy-in and conscious decision through your contemplation and preparation to help you get to that point where you can effectively trust and work with somebody to turn over the actual mechanism of changing to your unconscious mind. One of the ways to look at this is like your conscious mind is the captain of the ship. This is a giant ship that's got 10,000 or 100,000 people working on it, all with experience of different areas, all right? We can't micromanage this change. We've got to just turn it over and let the team get on with it, all right? So as long as your contemplation and preparation are robust, the action of quitting can be very, very quick. In fact, I work with people and typically I'll work with them and see them to quit in one session, okay? It can be very, very quick. It can be 10, 20 minutes. It can be a 45-minute session. It could be an hour session, depending on what they need. But we can go in and we can leverage the unconscious mind, the blocks that are there, to transform and make that change. And so that's why I say that the 4-stage maintenance really isn't an issue. In fact, after quitting, typically all I say to people is, look, just forget about it. Don't think about even what we've done here today. Just go and have a rest and then get on with your life. And notice that as things are sort of settling in, as your mind kind of reformats to this new way of being, just notice how things are different. And if you need any extra help, just let me know. But the maintenance really will take care of itself. Why? Because the contemplation looked at the impact of your life, the impact of smoking on your life, and how, as you look back on it now from this different perspective, that you would want things to be different, which transforms into a strong personal reason that gets leveraged and further deepened through the preparation, that expands the kind of your mental capacity and sense of expectation of what's how your life can be better, and also the kind of fears and concerns, the worries that you have about being able to manage and even be able to make that change. That then, with the right support, the right expert support, can help you quit very, very quickly and easily by leveraging all of that, by using that as the raw fuel for change and transformation, so that the maintenance is really more a case of celebrating each day and celebrating certain points and realizing that you're going out and you don't need anything. That you've just gone out for a meal, haven't even thought about smoking, that you think of yourself as a non-smoker, that you see other people smoking and it has no impact on you. So the maintenance really is more about sort of mindful awareness of having transformed and an awareness of your identity. So we could think of these as the contemplation you could think of as a, should we say, a life review and reflection stage that leads to enough is enough. The preparation phase is more about solidifying your motivation and uncovering the concerns at the unconscious level. The action is really about leveraging support of your subconscious mind to make change automatic, even if you don't understand how it's happening or why it's happening. Just trusting in that process, which is where a stop smoking expert can really, really help make a huge difference and increase your odds, better than the odds of working alone. And then the maintenance is really this mindful awareness of just noticing periodically how much more different you're feeling. So these are the 4 stages to quitting smoking. The 4 stages to quit smoking are a really helpful way for you to envisage the journey that you're going to be having. And I wanted to give you a little spin today that's just a little bit of a different way of looking at it, just to clarify it for you in a deeper way so that you can connect to this, so that you can make the changes that you want much more easily by understanding, the kind of, what you're going to need to go through. Okay. And you can go through that very, very quickly. Today, just simply ask yourself, okay, where I am right now, am I enjoying smoking? And when I think about, what's detrimental about smoking? What are my reasons for quitting? And then just think back to when you started smoking and ask yourself, am I glad I made that choice back then? Would I make that choice now? Would I recommend it to everyone else? Would I recommend it to friends, family, my siblings? Would I recommend it to my children? And chances are it's going to be no. All right. And that can begin the snowball of contemplation for you, to allow you to sort of step back, almost as if you're looking at a movie, a film of your life, and contemplating, where you want things to be and how you want things to go differently. And the 4 stages to quit smoking are a little bit like that. It's like a film with these different parts, and it will flow in very, very naturally. And once you understand that, well, you'll know that quitting smoking is actually fairly straightforward, okay, after the initial mental effort. Okay, the mental effort really comes mostly from the contemplation. All right, and that's something that you can do with someone else. Okay, but you're going to have to do some of that yourself. Okay, that's going to use the most energy. Next will be preparation, but the preparation is more about learning based on the kind of motivation that's come from enough is enough. So that gets a little bit easier, because now you're becoming informed about something you're interested in, you've got a deep personal connection to. Then quitting is like, really, it does require you to pay a little bit of attention, but honestly, that's much more, that can be quick, requires, very little kind of, very little energy in terms of the amount of time it's going to take. And then the maintenance is really just kind of like a mindful checking in over, to just recognize and appreciate how far you've come, which again is, that happens almost with the most minimal effort whatsoever. So when you understand that, you'll understand that you'll be starting off here with a lot of effort, and then that effort will be going down like this over time. So it's a really nice way to understand the 4 stages of quitting smoking, because you'll realize it's only going to get easier, it's only going to get more straightforward, and at a certain point you just don't think about it at all. And that's really what I want for you. So thank you for watching here today.